Right folks, I'm back. Something a little bit different this time. I thought I'd show you what I'm currently working on at the moment. It's another Python TKinter user interface. I'm calling it the spaffometer, but it's still in production at the moment. I've developed this user interface so it's the most ugly one that you can ever imagine. Anyway, I'll show you what roughly it does at the moment, and I've got plans for it. But if we import a ticker, I enter a ticker value here. I'm going to put ukwind.l on the London Exchange, and basically I'm going to press this button here that requests the data from the Yahoo Finance API, yfinance, Python yfinance, which uses the Yahoo API. And as you can see, the status changed there from status to obtained. And then click on this here button, plot the graph, and wow, as I said, I wanted the user interface to be a bit garish, but as you can see, it's basically pulled out the data for UK Wind, Greencoat UK Wind Energy, UK Wind PLC, and here is the share price graph since the inception sometime in 2013. It needs a bit of work on the labels, etc., but you can see the graph. The reason I pulled this one out was because obviously UK Wind is one that I've got in my portfolio, and it's performing pretty dreadfully, I must admit. And as you can see here, we're about, I can't remember how much we are at the moment, 100, we're just below 110 pence by the looks of it. And if you go back, there's not many times in the last, I don't know, what is it? Nearly, 8 years that it's lower than the share price from the last 8 years. So it's not doing very well. But what I've done for a start anyway on this graph is these lines here, the red lines, the vertical ones, and the numbers at the bottom, these are the dividend payments on the ex-dividend date. So just there, sometime in 2013, there's a 1.5p payment. I think they did twice yearly for a start. 1.5p interim, 3 pence final, and then another 3 pence interim, 3 pence final, and then they started going to quarterly payments. As you can see, it was 1.56p, 1.56p, gradually going up 1.73, 1.8p, 2.19p, 2.5p. So what my intention is eventually, excuse me, can't speak for coughing, cold here in the UK today, he says, getting a bit waylaid. Just trying to have a look, see how long this is going on for. 3 minutes at the moment, so we'll keep going. As you can see anyway, the idea is I'm going to eventually put another graph here underneath showing the amount of time that this share has been in positive territory from the price that it is currently. So this would have shown that basically if you'd have bought at any time round here, you'd be losing money at this point in time. And also I wanted the reason I've put in the dividend lines here for the dividend payments, I want to factor in how much you've received from dividends as well into the calculation. You'll see as I develop this how it progresses, but it's not an easy thing for me to do. My programming skills are pretty limited. Anyway, I'll tell you what I'll do now is I'm going to get in to see if I can seamlessly switch. I'm going to get into the programming area, and as you can see, just check it's all working. My integrated development environment that I use is VS Code. Thank you very much, Microsoft. It's done a fantastic job. Anyway, I'll just run through the code quickly so you've got an idea what's going on. Any comments you might have. leave in the comments section, and any questions rather, trying to speak again, and I'll try and answer them as best I can. I'm importing the libraries anyway. TKinter I'm importing Custom TKinter, Matplotlib, which does the graphics, Pandas, which is powering the data frames and data, and Matplotlib backends. That's so I can integrate Matplotlib graphs into the TKinter environment. I'm setting up the appearance mode, dark, which I like. I'm setting up the root window, which is it's called AppW, application window, that's short for. I've made that up. You can use anything you want. And then establishing a TKinter instance of configuring the color of that instance to black. The title's the spaffometer, as you saw, and the geometry, the size is full HD 1920 by 1080 and putting it at 320 pixels from the left edge, 0 from the top edge. And then I just print out the font information so I can see what I'm working with. As you can see then, as we're moving down to the UI, the user interface, I've created a frame to put in the buttons at the top of the screen, and they were the first label, which is just stating the status, so I can see when I've obtained the data, as you saw when I click the button. Then I've got an entry widget, CTK entry widget, which is putting into the label frame, the frame that I created to hold the buttons effectively, not the label frame, but the frame that holds the buttons. The placeholder text, which is what you saw before I put in, typed in the UK wind, is the enter ticker. We've packed the frames to display them. I'm stacking them each one on the left of the previous one. Then I'm adding some padding to put some spacing in between. Then I've got a button for the data request, so that's entitled request data. So that runs a function up here, which I'll show you in a minute. I've put the command is the return data. I've had to encapsulate this in a lambda function because I'm passing in the ticker, which I'm putting in the entry widget. So the entry widget ticker is the SFTE. The SFTE, I'm getting the text that's been input and I'm passing that in to the return data function. But you've got to put a lambda function around that, otherwise it won't run the function. It will try to run it first off and then you'll freeze it because you're passing in data. As you can see underneath on the next button, which draws the chart, which I've called plot graph, I've just put the command chart because I'm not passing in any actual, what do you call these, I forget now, but I'm not passing in anything for it to work with. Gosh, I can't remember what they're called. How disgusting, that's my age. And then I'm just triggering the main loop, so it goes into an event loop to power the application. So let's have a quick look at the return data. I am configuring the text in the label for retrieving, and then I'm using the yfinance module to obtain the data history for the maximum period. So that basically is returning from the yfinance request the history of the share price, the date, and it has the open, low, volume, close, etc. It also has the dividend information, which is where I pulled it out from, as you saw. And then I'm also asking for the ticker name details, which is, it's called short name in yfinance, and that is giving me the actual, it's not the ticker for UK wind or Greencoat UK wind is UKW.L, and the short name is UK Greencoat wind. So I'm getting that so I can display it on the graph, and then I'm saving it and replacing. For some reason it puts the name in quotes, and what I'm doing there is I'm replacing it and replacing the quotes with nothing to get rid of the quotes. Then the data, which is the share price data, which is called DAT, I'm resetting the index because yfinance sets the index as the date, whereas I want to make it easier to manipulate the data. I'm resetting the index so it doesn't have, the index is an allocated one by the system that starts at 0 and ends at however many rows of data that there are. And then I'm reformatting the date into this format here, year, month and day with a hyphen between, so I can manipulate that data. I'm also saving it into a file on my hard disk. As you can see, I'm getting rid of the index data, so it's just a normal CSV file. The UTF encoding is what I find works best for me and saves it in a normal format. And then I'm configuring the label, as you saw at the top, to say obtain, so I know that the data's been obtained. So let's power on. Let's see the time now. It's getting too long now. My goodness, 11 minutes. Sorry about that. Let's have a look at the chart function, which again is powered or activated when you press the button. And what I'm doing is I'm establishing a new data frame with the share price data. I'm then changing the date column of the data frame into a NumPy date array, so matplotlib can determine that that is a date and knows what to do with it. I'm then getting the dividends information, so wherever the dividends column in the data frame is greater than 0, I'm adding the values into a list. So every time it encounters an ex-dividend date, the dividend amount will be higher than 0, so it's putting that into the div list. So then I'm establishing the figure, the plot figure, as you can see, specifying the size, 18 by 8. I'm establishing the axis and adding a subplot, which is just one plot on the canvas. I am then setting the colour of the figure to white, setting the face colour to white. I'm not sure the difference on that. Oh, sorry. That is I've got it wrong there. The figure is the everything, including titles, labels, etc. That is being white, and the AX, it's the axis frame, that is set to blue. I'm then setting the patch line width to 2, which is the border around the axes. And then I'm getting rid of the top axis and the right axis by setting the visible to false. I'm then plotting the date and the close from the share price data, line style, normal style and color blue onto the graph. And then I'm also, this is the lines which are the vertical lines for the dividends. So for each item or list in the dividend list of lists, I'm pulling out, and this is plotting a vertical line, and that effectively is the date, and I'm drawing a line from 5% to 95% color red line width 0.2 and then put in the text, which again is the first item, which is the date, and I'm putting the amount in pence as well. Then I'm finding the X limits, or I'm setting the X limits by reference to the data frame, which is share price data from the first date to the last date. That's the 0 index and the last index. That is so that the graph expands to fit the frame. Otherwise, you get a larger border around the graph. So that's just to improve the aesthetics, so to speak. I'm then putting on a grid for the axes. This is on the y-axis, so for each amount in pence you're going to get a line across. I'm then setting the label to date, and I'm setting the Y label to pence per share, and then I'm putting some formatting characters. And then what I'm doing here is I'm bringing in the name of the share, which is Greencoat UK Wind, and I'm just spacing that out, which is that loop there, and then adding it to the title, which is share price graph X dividend dates, and then the UK Greencoat Wind. I'm then setting the title per that on this line here, which is the axis set title, and then I'm putting it into a tight layout again. That's to expand the graph to fit tight against the borders to make more use of the space. I'm then putting the whole figure that I've created above into the master, which is the root app, into a canvas object. I'm then drawing the canvas, which is rendering the picture, and then I'm getting a widget to place in my app by TKinter, which is the TK widget, and this is from the back ends of Matplotlib. And there we have it, folks. Probably not a great explanation, I must admit. Pretty dire, as though we're going through it myself. But I hope you found that useful. It's what I'm working on at the moment. I'm gonna, improve on it. So as I say, we can see if shares are performing or how badly they're performing. And anyway, let me know if you think I should put anything more in it. Appreciate you watching. Subscribe. I do my ex-dividend amounts as and when I receive them. That's something to look forward to. So yeah, as I say, best of luck. Cheers.